Okay, everyone. Today's topic is going to be DBQ writing for our screencast. And so, although this is not a history topic, it is a very important topic to kind of understand how to properly write the DBQ essay. So, I can't emphasize enough that the way that we're going to write the DBQ might not be the same as you've done it in the past. So, you really want to watch this video thoroughly and maybe go through it a couple of times just until you're sure that you're doing it the proper way. So I'm going to really take you step by step through the process of writing, an AP-style DBQ essay. All right. So step number one, the very first thing that you want to do when you get the essay question, either the themat or the pre-response question or the DBQ question, the first thing that you want to do is brainstorm before you actually get into the reading the document or starting to write the essay. So when I say brainstorm, really what I mean is this. Read the question. So what I want you guys to do now is to pause the video, read the question. Read the question to yourself, and what you want to do is write down everything that you know about it up until this point. So, I mean, for us at this point, it's easy because we just learned about, Jefferson and Madison and kind of strict constructionism and loose constructionism. But you have to understand, on the AP exam, it could be anything that we've learned throughout the entire year. So what you want to do is take about 5 minutes, and you want to just read the question, and before you look at any documents, you want to list as many facts as you can remember about it. Strict constructionist, loose constructionist, any acts that were passed, Alien Sedition Act, major things. So you want to kind of come up with a list. So as far as this essay is concerned, you might not actually have to do this step because we've learned it so recently. But on the AP test, you definitely want to take those few minutes and actually just list some stuff because it's going to become very important later on when you want to throw in information that's not given to you in the documents. All right. So step number 2, after you do your brainstorming session, what you want to do next is really kind of like there's 2 parts to it. So you're going to read the documents. But as you read, you want to do a few things. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to write inferences about each of the documents. And it could be 1 inference per document, it could be 2, it could be 3. It's as many as you kind of like pops into your head as you're reading. And hopefully as you read the documents, things start to pop into your head. You start to kind of make sense of the document and make connections to different things that we learned about in class. That's what's supposed to happen as you go through the documents. The second part of this, what you want to do as you read, is categorize the documents using Persia. And this is going to become essential when you write the essay because you're going to categorize them and you're going to group them. So you're going to have a paragraph about political stuff or a paragraph about economic stuff or social stuff. And so that's kind of where you're going to put those documents in. So it's kind of like doing some of the organizational work for you beforehand. So I want to kind of go through this together. So we're actually going to take a look at the very first document in your essay that you have due coming up on Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So document A. What I want you guys to do is you can pause the video here. What you want to do is kind of read through the document and then come up with your own inferences. Okay, so hopefully you've come up with 2 or 3 or 4 good inferences about the document. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you guys some of the inferences that I came up with when I read document A. So these are some of my big inferences. So I wrote down, number 1, the actions of the Federalists are no better than those of the European monarchies. And I think you can kind of make that connection to King George III in there. And I think that's partially what Jefferson's trying to make the connection to. 2, actions of the federal government have expanded power of the federal government to an unreasonable degree and destroyed states' rights. So that's pretty explicit in there, I think, is a big part of it. And you definitely want to grab that from the document. And then the third one, I just kind of wrote like my opinion here, that he's advocating states' rights and a strict interpretation of the Constitution. So any of these things would be like key inferences that you could get from the document. And hopefully you guys came up with similar things or you came up with other things that are kind of relating to the document. So that's what you want to do for every single document. As you read, come up with some key inferences. And if you notice, none of this stuff is kind of like groundbreaking ideas here. I really just kind of like interpreted the document. I made sense of it and kind of put it in my own words and put it in the context of the things that we've learned in class. So if you've understood the concepts from class, this is going to be easy to kind of take some of the information and like basically put it into your own words based off of, you know, all the stuff that we've learned so far about Jefferson and, you know, strict constructionism and loose constructionism. Alright, so the second part of this that you want to do, hopefully you did it as you read, is categorize the document. So, actually, let's do one thing first. So when I was doing this, I actually also thought of, like, things popped into my head, and hopefully this happens to you too. Basically, like, I was reading and I was coming up with my inferences, and then I was thinking about, like, correlating outside information. So these three things, there's a lot of things that popped into my head as I was reading it, but these three big things came to my head. You know, the Virginia and Kentucky resolutions, the Alien and Sedition Acts, and Hamilton's financial plan. So this might actually be another really good thing to do as you go through the document, is if you come up with inferences, also you can write right next to the document. You can write down, like, key outside information that can kind of, like, help you, that you want to throw in. When you mention this document, you want to throw this outside information in there too. And I want you to notice the things that I put down for outside information. These are what I would call, like, hard facts, hard history, not soft history. You know, the Virginia and Kentucky resolutions is an actual, you know, document that's written. It's a hard factual piece of evidence there. Alien and Sedition Acts, Hamilton's financial plan, you could break down the different aspects of his plan. It gives you a lot of meat, a lot of things to talk about. And in these DBQs, you definitely want to kind of add in a ton, as much as you can, of your own information, stuff from class, because that's what makes the essay rich and kind of, like, rounds it out. So you might want to do this as you go through each document too, because things will pop into your head, hopefully, like they popped into my head, that correlate with the document and correlate with, you know, some of the inferences that you were making. So like I said before, the second part of this is to categorize the document. So for me, I categorize this one as a political document, or you could even make another category and kind of call this ideological, right? Because it's kind of spelling out Jefferson's it's his political ideology that he's spelling out here with strict constructionism. And also you should have noticed, hopefully you noticed the date. I believe the date was 1800. So this is actually before he takes office. So this is early on in his presidency. And things might change about Jefferson and his own views later on in his presidency. Alright, so after you've kind of gone through all of the different documents, now you're up to kind of the task of writing the essay. So what I want you guys to remember is, writing the essay is exactly the same as writing the FRQs, the free response questions, the ones that we've been doing so far in class. Your first two essays were what we would call FRQs, free response questions. So the way you set up your introduction, you know, with that nice background information and a solid thesis statement and good topic sentences, all of that stuff stays exactly the same when you're writing the DBQ essay. But there are a few differences. So the differences are going to come in the body paragraph, and basically with our last step, which is how do you actually use the documents in the essay. So I know how a lot of you guys have used them in the past, and this is a key difference, and I really want to see you guys use the documents the right way in the essay, use them the AP way in the essays. So I wanted to give you guys an example of using the document. So I wrote out, like, a couple sentences using document 1, and I wanted you to kind of see how I used it in the essay. So this is my sample here, so let's read it together. Before Jefferson became the president, he was extremely critical of John Adams, claiming that Adams had unconstitutionally expanded the power of the federal government and infringed upon states' rights. So that idea, although I had some outside knowledge here with John Adams as the presidency, that I really got from document 1. That's what he's saying there. That's really just me building off one of my inferences. So really what you want to do here, how you use the documents, is you take the inferences that you come up with as you're reading, and that's what you kind of put in your essay, your own words in the essay. So, and all you have to do after you use the document is just put it in parentheses, document 1, or document 2, or, you know, whatever it is, document A, document B, and that's how you use the documents. So then, what I also did after this, I think is important, is that I kind of, like, backed it up with outside information. So I said Jefferson made his viewpoint clear in the Virginia and Kentucky resolutions of 1798, which were a scathing attack on the constitutionality of the Alien and Sedition Acts and the first account of the doctrine of nullification. So I kind of like rounded it out with like lots of my own information here. And so that's two things that I want you guys to kind of try and emphasize when you do the DBQ. This is how I want you to use the document. I do not want to see people writing, according to document A, the author says such and such, and then you give a nice long quote. That is kind of not on the level that we need. Basically, you need to interpret the information in the document. You need to show that you understood the meaning of it. And so by giving direct quotes and kind of saying like according to document B or in document B, you're really not showing the reader that you actually understood it. So really I want to kind of make like a hard and fast rule here. We are not going to use quotes from the documents at all throughout your essay. I want you to use inferences, paraphrasing, put it in your own words, kind of gain information from it and show the reader that you understood what you read and you can make connections to things that we've learned in class and things in history. And I think it's very important that you really put in the other pieces of the information here. Like without like the Virginia and Kentucky resolutions and the Alien and Sedition Act, you know, that document there doesn't really quite make sense. That's what's going to kind of round out and make the essay a little bit more full, is when you start to put in more outside information to back up your documents. Now, the other thing that you might be thinking is, how many documents do I need to use in my essay? So the rule, there is no actual rule as far as how many documents you should use. But what I would tell you guys is to use as many as you can. You want to use as many documents as you can, and you also want to use as much outside information as you can within your essay. So this is really our first attempt at doing the DBQ, and I think it's a challenging question, but we've been talking about it in class quite a bit. So I think you guys are prepared to kind of, you know, write a solid essay here and, you know, have a solid DBQ essay. So if you guys have questions, you know, I'm going to be available. You can come talk to me after school, and we can kind of work on like the format of it. If you have trouble citing the documents the way that I want you to, we can work on it. So what I would tell you guys kind of to end off here is get started. Do not wait. What I've noticed about you guys is I give you an assignment. It doesn't matter how much time I give you, how much ahead of time I give you the assignment, you wait. You wait until the day before. Things are going to start to pile up here. So the day before Thanksgiving, the essay is going to be due. But also that week, we're going to have a test. So do not procrastinate. Take your time. I gave it to you a week and a half ahead of time for a reason. Get started now. All right, guys. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and like I said, get started with your essays.